Oh my goodness. Hey, everybody. This is the Aaron Strayer Show, episode number 2. And today we are talking all about debunking the myths and what happens with women in business. And I'm so excited that we're talking with my good, dear friend Jeneen Masih today. And I'm Aaron Strayer. And I'm going to let Jeneen introduce herself, and I'm going to let the people know that we're on live. So you go ahead, Jeneen, and talk about all the goodness, all about yourself. And I'm going to let some people know that we're on here. I'm going to invite them.
That's awesome. So Chris jumped on, and she's one of my peeps. So welcome, Chris. Thanks for joining us today. My name is Jeneen Masih, and I'm so happy to be Aaron's guest today because we're going to talk about some things that I'm really passionate about. And perspective is a rich and beautiful thing. I have had 30 years in leadership. Hey, Shara, welcome. And across multiple industries. I am so excited, thankful for the journey that I've had, really happy to be where I am today. I have my own coaching company called JMM Consulting. It's in this company I support people across industry to transform their lives, and this is in a very holistic sense, with the focus being on whatever they need or want it to be. Hi, Michael. So for some people, it is their relationships. For some, it is their bank account. For some, it's personal development. Some are excited to walk a deeper spiritual journey. So it just depends. But I draw on the background that I've had, the experience I've had in my professional and personal life. And so that's what we're going to talk about today, and the fact that, being a woman today and throughout this last 30 years, we've seen some pretty interesting times, don't you think, Aaron?
Oh my gosh, yeah. And I 100% feel like, the perspective has shifted, but I don't feel that the equality is there even still. And you guys, I'm just going to kind of broach this out. This isn't going to be a political thing. Today, I just want to make that clear that we're not talking politics today, and we're just on here talking about we are two. Hi, everybody! Thanks so much for coming on. I know I sent a bunch of people invitations, so make sure you say hi when you're here. Let us know that you're on. But yeah, we as women, both of us, very, very strong business women. Both of us had diverse, different backgrounds, but we were both coming up inside of typical men's worlds. And you, Jeneen, massively succeeded. I feel like I succeeded in my career in those lanes. We both have stepped away from those careers to do what we do now, and coach women and men to be better, bigger versions of themselves, in kind of a big nutshell. And yeah, so yeah, we kind of had this, Jeneen and I, hey, Tim, how you doing? We kind of had started a conversation yesterday, Jeneen and I did. I'm like, hey, we got to talk about this. And then some things transpired today. And I'm like, hey, Jeneen, guess what we're talking about today? So I totally feel this is kind of off the cuff, people, but I think it's super, super important. And it came up for Jeneen and I, and it came up hard and strong. And hey, Jen, how are you? To talk about this and how we are as women, and how we're seen, and how we've had to interact in those roles to be the leaders that we are now. So yeah. What do you guys think that are on here? I mean, Did you struggle being women in a men's world? Those of you guys that are out there, let us know.
I wanted to throw in there too. I love working with men.
I do too.
Love working with men. And it was funny because earlier in my career, in some ways, I found it easier when I don't know if I had sufficient communication skills and wasn't able to handle everything that I could see or feel and navigate that well. So I was really drawn to working with men. I came out of the legal field. And so at that time, it was very heavy division with men.
Yeah.
I think it's interesting too what we see. You mentioned that, look, we're still facing some major challenges. Cool thing is I think when things shift, so when the perspective shifts, there's still a tail that we're hanging on to. Because like with any story or any transformation, it shifts here first. We start doing things, and it takes a while for everything to catch up. I really like to think that's where we are when we continue to have clarity and own who we are as women. As you know, I have 2 adult daughters, so this becomes really, really important to me, not just for myself, but for the next generation of women, and for men too. How do we work at a high level? How do we leverage everything in a day where innovation is so important? How are we better? I think that's, for me, that's what a lot of this is about.
Yeah. How is that as a mom with 2, adult daughters?
Mm-hmm.
Both of them are professionals. Yes. Both of them, are out living on their.
Oops, I'm not sure if you can hear me, Erin, but I've got a frozen. I might have to go out and in again. Oh, there we are.
Jeneen's going to jump. Are you back?
Yes.
Are you back?
Yes, sorry. Yeah. I guess you just needed a moment.
Oh, we had a moment.
Yeah.
The internet had to take a breath.
Yes.
We were too much for them.
We're talking about my daughters, and that's the last I heard.
Yeah. So I don't know. In my mind, I feel like somewhere in and around this conversation of women in leadership roles, that probably pops up a lot in conversation with you as a mom.
Yes.
With them.
My girls are really, really different in so many ways. So one lives in New York City and is a teacher. One is in her 3rd year of medical school in Miami, Florida. So my daughter in New York is very aware of political climate, and I just mean climate for different groups of people. And she's very tuned into rights, personal rights, human rights. My other daughter is really focused on what she's doing. And if you ask her, she says, well, there is no inequality. So there's an internal debate, which is very interesting because my daughter from the north will send her statistical data and tell her, really? Because you're going to get paid less. And your education doesn't cost less. And people aren't going to listen to you like they're going to listen to men. And we all only know our own experience. And so I think that dichotomy of experience, both having grown up with me, I think it's interesting. I'm proud that they each voice what they think vehemently, and I think sometimes, you don't journey for somebody else. They journey for themselves, but these small bits of stories that are relayed to me where I just sit back and say, we're on rounds. There's the attending, who gets talked to, how do we get treated? Interesting. Because we all have to figure it out for ourselves. So yes, we have lots of interesting conversations. I think a lot of what we talk about, I remember the first time I heard Gloria Steinem speak. I remember some significant times historically that aren't part of my daughter's experience. And so these people lack in significance as far as their perspective. It's not the same as it was to me. So connecting the dots as women becomes important in sharing stories, not to stay in the past, but to see where we're going, to see where the pace is. Yeah. That's exciting for me because it's all about where we're headed.
I love that. I know Anya said, I think those days are long over when women are always considered to have a supportive hand to do anything. We can now dig deeper. We can now do bigger things on our own. Yeah, I agree 100% with you, Anya. I think the, yesterday we were talking about, Jeneen and I were talking about when we started in our careers, you know, it was expected to wear the pantsuit and have the, you know, we had this whole conversation of the expectations of being a woman in a corporate environment and what that involved and how that, what, you know, where that's come from, you know, in the last 20 and 30 years, you know, where that's come and how it's evolved and how, you know, some of the, I don't want to call them battles, but kind of the roadblocks that are kind of still existing there for us as women, I think definitely are nowhere close to what they were 20 and 30 years ago. Jeneen, you froze again. Oh, there you are. Oh, you were listening.
I was listening.
You were listening intently. I was like,
I was practicing frozen. No, I agree with you. I think too is, you know, it's like with any change, you don't see what's next until you get to another level. And so our focus has been refined and different.
yeah,
It's no less serious, still continues to be serious. We as people need to be vigilant about that. I don't like when things are polarized, even within the sexes, because, you know, how can something be a women's issue that doesn't affect men? I mean, we are intimately connected. I'm sorry, but I have a father and a brother. You know, I have significant people in my life, and that's important to me. It's
yeah,
important to them too. And that's something that, you know, sometimes one side of the conversation comes up. And in all fairness, sometimes things come when they're backed up for a long time. It's kind of like, you know, you stopped it up, and then when it comes out, it's kind of like bigger and bolder than what you would have imagined. And then things find their new normal again. So sometimes that happens. One thing I wanted to speak to that we spoke of yesterday, which I really thought about a lot after our call, was owning who we are. Now, it happens to be as women, but as people, and bringing that to the table in leadership. Because a lot of times we have ideas about what leadership looks like and how I am expected to react, to perform, to lead. When I don't have a good sense of self, I really don't know where my strongest pieces are to leverage. And we're all different, and men and women, but we've been, you know, through media, through personal experience, we're so narrow in what we think is okay.
yeah,
When we have these leaders, and we know this because not only do we lead, but we're led.
right,
What feels good to me is when somebody who leads me is so connected with who they are. They're very self-assured. They've got really clear vision. They're not nervous about surrounding themselves with talent, kind of setting milestones and letting people fly. For me, that's a comfortable kind of leadership. That's my style. But still within that, we need to know, you know, am I a loud person? Am I a reactive person? And I don't mean loud in a bad way, right? So figuring out who we are instead of the act we've played for so long is freeing. And it's exciting for everybody who's concerned, I think. What do you think about that, Erin?
Yeah, you know, I think that's a whole lot of, you know, we're raised a certain way, and you know, a lot of our behaviors are learned from the environment that we're in.
Right.
So as we evolve as people and the leaders, it takes a long time for us to figure out really who we are. And once we find that through a series of I was just reading a comment from Anya. Once we figure out who we are, you know, and we find our voice, and we find the strength in our voice, and not to be boisterous and outstanding and being the ringleader, you know, and I'm not saying that. It's just the strength in our voice and what we have to say. I think that helps us to evolve as the leader that we're born to be. I mean, we're all born to be leaders. We're all born to be leaders. So, hey, Jake, thanks for jumping on.
Yep. No, I agree with that, Erin. I really, and it is that, like you said, it's the strength of your message. It's the strength of your impact and your ability to inspire and lead and cast vision. It has to match with your authentic self, because it's kind of fraudulent, you know? People don't believe it. They can't always put their finger on why, but when you're being genuine, when you're being vulnerable, and you're coming from wherever you are. So some people are going to speak softly. Some people are going to, be a little bit louder. That we get confused at thinking strong leadership means a certain personality type. Pardon me, and that's not necessarily true. So, we've got more opportunity today than we've ever had before within leadership. What women do with that, part of understanding and taking advantage of it is knowing it's there.
Right? Yeah.
It's not an opportunity otherwise.
Yeah, for sure. Do you feel that being a woman, and it's ingrained in us, it's in our DNA, clearly we're different than men, DNA wise, DNA makeup wise, the whole men versus Mars versus Venus and all that kind of thing. We are different. We have different chromosomes on a molecular level. But do you feel that, like, I'm empathetic, I'm fairly in tune with people's emotions. I feel them. And for me now, in my world where I'm at now, I truly feel that empowers me as the leader that I am. That helps me to read people better. It helps me to understand where they're at, to have that understanding and a little bit of grace, but also to be able to hold them accountable. Hey, you said that you were going to hit this deadline for me. This was supposed to be done, or this was the homework that I put in front of you, or, you said you were going to get me that information by XYZ day, and that was yesterday. What's going on? Something's wrong, because this isn't you. Do you feel that helps you too in your coaching, like to be, because I know that you're pretty empathetic also, and you're pretty in tune, but, we both have the corporate backgrounds that.
Yeah. I think it's funny. I didn't know what to do with all that in the past.
No kidding.
It's rooted in emotion. It's really tied to passion. And to be a passion-based leader, the images that I conjure up in my mind are, people who are leading social movements or making huge changes. And what I think of when I think of them are charismatic, raw, they touch people, and through that they influence. And so my work with both men and women, I work very hard to reestablish connection with emotion so people understand how they feel. If they feel pissed off, we look at why do we feel pissed off, not pretend we don't, right? Because we were given a whole range of emotions for a reason. It's not to get lost in them or stuck in them, but this idea that if you allow yourself to feel emotions, you cannot think critically is something I just think I don't see it. It's been my biggest strength. If I know something's going on, I got to look at why. And a lot of times giving men permission and teaching women how to take that and communicate it. Because sometimes we just don't have the tools we need to leverage it. It's not wrong. It's not good or bad. But it's accepting what comes, and then how do we use it to our advantage? How do we communicate that to people in a way that's productive, that makes sense, and that we're respected, right? I think that's a key piece is earning respect.
Yeah. And how do you think, Jeneen, like in your world, how do you feel that like has evolved? Because I know you, and I know you're much like me, and this whole tapping into those feelings is probably a newer thing. I know it is for me, specifically in the last 3 to 5 years, just really dropping down into my heart and being able to be in that space instead of in my head all the time.
Yeah. What's interesting, yes, for me, there's a huge focus personally on connecting head and heart.
Yeah. Oh, right.
So I'm standing in this place constantly unfolding, evolving, understanding, wanting to learn more, digging deeper. I see intersections with spirituality.
Yeah.
Huge, which, we don't talk about spirituality when we talk about business issues. We don't talk about, well, who said we don't? I come to what I show up with all of me. I haven't always shown up with all of me. And I think the effectiveness becomes your voice is unified. You are in alignment. You're able to use all your facilities. I made a decision 3 years ago that I was going to make a physical transformation. And it's not for the typical reasons, right? It wasn't, I need to be at this ideal weight. I want to look this way. I just wanted freedom. I wanted freedom not to think about my physicalness. I wanted energy to keep up with this calling that I have to support others, to share a message, and to really change the world one person at a time. I had to remove all blocks. Part of it was a physical block.
Yeah.
Some of it is emotional. When I look back on certain relationships that I probably could have handled things better, I just wasn't equipped at the time. Didn't have the tools. Had strong emotions. I had a straight, linearly. I'm a pretty critical thinker. There was a disconnect. That's the beautiful thing for me to be sitting today at age 51, probably in a greater place of power for whatever I choose to do in my life than I've ever been in before. And, if you ask my kids, they'll tell you, there's then Jeneen, and then there's Jeneen that we grew up with. And there's a marked difference.
Yeah.
And I have to say, I do like the change myself.
I didn't know the pre-Jeneen, but I really like this Jeneen.
That's all I've got for you. That's all I've got. Yeah. Yeah.
And I think that like this, those true smiles, come quicker. They're more authentic. They're heartfelt. They're real. I feel that for me specific, mine was a medical career background where, the emotion part of it, Jeneen, you and I spoke about this yesterday, but the emotion part of it got in the way of making the critical decisions that I needed to make. Yes. So for me, the emotions couldn't be involved.
Right.
And so over time, the switch gets turned off on all of them.
All of them.
All of them. So now as a woman, I've walked away from that career. I'm almost 4 years out of that career. Woo. I know. It's like, whoa, what is that? Yesterday I'm like, I have tears in my eyes talking to you. At one point in time, I'm like, oh, those are tears. That's what those are, and like just the feeling into that now and allowing those relationships and those emotions and those heartfelt, deep-centered feelings to surface.
Yeah. Let me ask you this.
Yeah.
We've got those feelings that we've always associated with femininity, right? That connectedness, empathy. What about feelings of anger?
Ooh.
Because I think we've also adjusted how we share that in the past too, based on societal pressures, what we've been taught within our own homes. So you smile easier.
Yeah.
Here in other ways. What about sharing your anger, frustration, disappointment? How does that work today in your world, Erin?
In my world? Yeah. I don't, for me, I address an issue quicker these days so that it doesn't build up to the massive explosions, I can't even say that word, explosions that it used to prior. The holding in those emotions until they're like a ginormous volcano before, and this explosion of yuck prior. Now those things, hey, that really bothers me when I'm going to go with my husband's stuff. So, you know, like little things like the nesting bowls, right? They're all like the bowls that are all one size smaller than the next one, and they all one sit inside the other one. They all sit one right inside the other one.
Not always.
Not always. Some people figure out another way around it, and there's always another way. I get that. I get it. But, you know, hey, can we put them together in the right order? You know, and I address it quicker, you know, instead of, or in a more humorous way, or it bothers me, and it's a frustrating situation when you don't nest the bowls correctly, and that really rubs my type A wrong.
Right.
Could you figure out? I don't care that I can't find them or that they don't go back in the right spot, but that they don't nest really bothers me.
Yeah.
Could you make sure that they're like, you know?
That isn't a woman issue.
No.
That's an OCD issue.
That's a what issue?
OCD. So, okay.
I got it.
Here's a colorful question.
Yeah.
So what about swearing as a way of communication for you, Erin?
What about it? Go deeper with that question for me.
So again, the man-woman thing.
Yeah.
Men talk shop.
Right.
Women
all the time.
Right?
Yeah.
So, it's funny. I don't swear often, but I definitely give myself full permission at any time because I'm not going to leave out any form, any expression of emotion that I have. I don't always choose to use it, but see, now you're listening intently and not moving. I'm not sure if I'm frozen or you're frozen. Oh. Oh. A young lawyer, I was in a